Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome to another episode of Measuring Dev Skills with CodeSignal. Today we're looking at a very different type of task from what we're used to, and you're probably noticing that instantly, that this looks a little bit different from what we're used to seeing. Specifically, we don't have any IDE window, there isn't a console, there isn't really a place for us to type in any code. But there is some code on the screen right over here. So basically the idea is what we're looking at now is a quiz question. Now in terms of the way this would actually be served up to a user, to a candidate, normally a quiz would consist of maybe about 10 questions. It can vary, but usually somewhere around there. We look at them one at a time. We basically select an answer from the list. We hit submit. And then we'd move on to the next question. We would have a time limit for the entire quiz, like how long we have to get the whole thing done. It's not really at the level of the individual questions or individual quiz questions, more so the entire quiz. But I mainly just wanted to sort of zoom in on a couple of different types of questions this time to sort of show the variety of what's available, how we can use this kind of thing, the advantages of it, etc. So first of all, one thing you might instantly think just by looking at this is well, sure, I mean, that's great, but what's to stop you from just highlighting this, searching Google or something like that, right? Maybe typing it into an IDE and testing it out, right? To see what it's actually doing. Well, the problem with that is, or I guess the not problem, the solution to that, I should say, is that we can't actually highlight here. And I mean, sure, we could go in and inspect and take a look at the actual DOM here, but even that is quite a bit more obfuscated than what we might expect. There are a lot of things like spans thrown in here. It would definitely take a lot of time to sort of dissect all the little pieces of code in here. In fact, I would say it would take a lot more time than it would be worth, because again, these are the kinds of questions that are gonna have a time limit associated with them. So it would probably be a lot easier to just go through it ourselves, take a look at what the code's doing, and based on that, give our best guess, I guess, or our best answer based on the information. So this is just one type of quiz question. There are quite a few different ones, and they tend to be grouped thematically. So this one is about a front-end event listener, but we could have these quiz questions specific to a particular language. So to look at a few other ones, for example, maybe we want to look at a Python question, right? Something that just gives us a bit of Python code and asks us what this is all about. We could take a look at one that's JavaScript specific, for example. We could look at another technology like Android, for example, right? There's some Android code here. Again, we can't exactly go in and copy it. It would be pretty complicated to pick it apart. And we could look at other more general kinds of things as well. Maybe we want to look at something like machine learning, right? And this one shows us we have the opportunity to put something like an image in here. It doesn't just have to be code, or we could have just full-on markdown, like a table or something like that. We could make these quizzes about other technologies like Docker or something like that are popular within the industry. So this kind of thing can be specific to the type of job that we're trying to hire for, right? That we're trying to look for candidates for. These can be a really useful way to screen a large group of candidates because we get a pretty quick signal over here. You'll notice it's very not processor intensive whatsoever. This is probably the first task we've looked at where we don't have to send anything over to the CodeRunner servers. It all happens locally over here, so it's just a matter of basically saving all of the answers that a user comes up with, and then at the end it makes a comparison on the CodeSignal server to the expected answers. And then it sort of ranks the user, grades the user according to that, and we get a signal back in terms of how they did. So maybe we want to have a couple rounds of interviews or a screening and then move on to the interviews from there. So we want to basically weed out all the candidates who aren't really proficient enough just based on their quiz answers. There's no sense in putting those users in front of an IDE if they can't even get past the quiz part of it. So basically the idea is this allows us to ask the user a wide variety of questions, right? We can cover a lot of different topics. We can cover a lot of very specific kinds of situations. And we can do it all very, very quickly without having sort of the time and resource commitment that we normally would by giving them some sort of algorithmic question or something like that, where they actually have to write code, not to mention, process the entire question and what it's asking them to do. So that sort of stuff is good for if that's what we're looking for, right? But for just a quick screen, let's say we had a few hundred candidates or something like that, and we wanted to narrow it down to just a few that we were pretty confident they'd be able to produce some good code, this would be a really good way to handle that kind of situation. So just another one of the many technologies available on the CodeSignal platform. I think that's about all I had to say about this one, so thanks so much for tuning in. Join us again next week, where we're going to be looking at one of our favorite types of tasks, bug fixing. Everyone's favorite, right? All right, I'll see you then. Thanks again for tuning in. Bye for now.